we're going to talk about how do we request someone and how do we respond to it, and we're also going to cover commands, okay? Now the other day I was in my office and one of my colleagues said, hey, do me a favor, just finish this file. And it sounded really rude. I mean, maybe he didn't mean to be rude, but I didn't take it very well. So here I was like, okay, let me do a lesson on this, because there are people who just, you know, they either don't want to be rude or they just want someone to do a favor for them, but they do not know the correct way, the polite way to request someone, okay? And almost on daily basis, there are people who ask you to do something, or you ask someone to do something for you, isn't it? So here in this lesson, we are going to learn that how do we put in a request, okay? We're going to look at various phrases that we use for a request, okay? So we're going to look here, could you, okay? Now there are many people who also say, can you pass me a pen? Okay, now there are people who say this, which is also right, but could you is of course more polite, okay? It's a more formal way to ask someone to do something, okay? So here when you say, could you open the door for me? Door for me, please. Okay, you can always use the word please. It's the magic word, okay? So the person will do it for you for sure. If you say it in a very nice way, in a very polite way, the person will do it for you. Because when you're requesting someone, it is important to be polite, okay? You just can't order someone to do something, right? It's not an obligation, because people have a choice to either do it or not to do it, isn't it? So you can always use this magic word. I do that, okay? We're gonna look at another phrase here. Would you mind, okay? Now, would you mind? Now, would you mind is, now if you are using this phrase, it would always be followed by a gerund, okay? Now, what is a gerund? It's verb plus the ing. So, for example, would you mind opening the door for me? Okay, you would always say, would you mind opening the door for me? Or for example, you can also say, would you mind helping me with this project? Okay, so always this phrase will be followed by a gerund, right? Now the response to this question, okay, now would you mind, would be a little different as compared to the other phrases, okay? Now here, if someone would ask you, would you mind opening the door for me? Okay, the response, you would use a negative word for it, like you would say, no, I don't mind. But exactly the response is positive. You do use a negative word, but it's basically you are saying, yes, I'll do it, okay? So the response to would you mind will be, no, I don't. So it basically means that I'll be happy to open the door for you, okay? Now we have another phrase here, I would be grateful. Now I would be grateful is again, I'll be obliged, okay? It means that I'll be obliged. So I would be grateful if you do this project work for me, or if you would help me with this project work, okay? So this is another way of requesting someone, okay? And we have another one here for you. I would appreciate it. Now I would appreciate it if you do this work for me, or if you finish this project for me. Okay, so this is also another phrase. It is more formal and it also sounds really polite. So of course the person would be really happy to do it for you if you use these phrases. And there's another phrase here, I was hoping. Now here, I was hoping is basically you're just being nice, and maybe, I mean, of course you're being nice, but you're a little, you're not sure if the person would do it or no. Okay, so you're just being gentle, you're just being nice, saying that I was hoping that you would finish this project work for me. Okay, so these are the phrases that you can use when your office, okay, with your colleagues, or even in your school if you want to talk to your friends, other fellow students. Okay, so this would just sound perfect, right? Now, how would we respond to the requests? You can say, sure, I'll be happy to do that. Okay, you can always say, sure, or you can say, all right. Okay, so this is the way you would respond if you would like to do that. Okay, if the person has asked you to do something and you want to do it, that's how you would say. You would say, sure, I'll do it for you, or of course, or all right, I'll do it for you. Now, as we learned that request is not an obligation, okay, you also have the right to say no, isn't it? But a direct no would sound really rude. Okay, so what you can say is, I'm sorry, okay, you can add, I'm sorry, I can't do this. I'm sorry, I can't do this, or I can't. All right, or you can say, I'm afraid I won't be able to do this. Okay, this is the polite way of responding to a request if you don't want to do it. Okay, so now we would also look at the commands. So now that we learned how do we request, we would also see that what are commands. Okay, now command is more like an obligation. Okay, it's a compulsion, like you do not have a choice, you have to do it. Okay, so it's more an obligation. Okay, and command is an imperative form. Okay, please do remember that it's an imperative form. Now, why it's an imperative form? Because it does not have a subject, okay? It is hidden, right? So I'll explain you when we go through the sentences here, the examples here. Like, for example, answer the phone. So it's like a command. It's more like a demand, right? Answer the phone, okay? And you would not specifically say that you answer the phone, okay? So it's obvious that the person is talking to you, answer the phone, right? So that's why it's an imperative form. All right, so we don't specifically use you answer the phone, okay? Now let's look at another sentence here. Finish this ASAP. Now, ASAP is an acronym, and it's basically as soon as possible, okay? So if you are at your workplace and your boss demands that finish this ASAP, okay? So it's more like a command, and you don't have a choice, right? You will have to do it, okay? You have to follow what he says, what he tells you, isn't it? So another example here, be quiet. Now, be quiet is also a command. Usually teachers use it for the children, the naughty children who are making a lot of noise in the class, or the mothers use it. So of course, the children cannot say that I won't do it or I won't be quiet, isn't it? So the children do not have an option but to be quiet, okay? So be quiet is another way of commanding, okay? Don't drive without a seat belt on. So we have, especially these youngsters, they have a habit of not putting on the seat belt, isn't it? So always you would see the elders, and as well as, of course, the traffic police, they would always command saying, don't drive without a seat belt on, okay? So again, this is a command. You do not have a choice but to follow the rule, okay? And study English regularly. This is what I would say, okay? Study English regularly because we are learning English. We would love to practice English. So that's why it is important to study English, okay? So it's, again, a command. Now, how would you respond to these commands? Of course, you cannot say no to it. So the best way is that, sure, I'll do that, or of course I'll do that, or you can also be nice and polite saying I would love to do that. Okay, so these are the various ways that you would respond to commands. Okay, so here we learned, so the next time whenever you are commanding someone or you're putting in a request, just be nice, be polite, use the magic word please, okay? And I will see you in your next lesson soon. And also, I request you to write into us, and any other lessons that you are looking forward for, I would love to come up and